What's up, everybody? Joshua Yehl here. The new Avatar: The Last Airbender series on Netflix brings the adventures of Aang, Katara, and Sokka into live action again, but as is the case with any adaptation, some key changes were made in the transition. So I'm going to run through the biggest differences that were made to the Book 1 Water storyline, from brand new scenes to brand new rules for the Avatar state. So get ready, and let's bend it like Beckham. Alright, to start us out, the original Last Airbender series started at the South Pole with Katara and Sokka discovering a frozen Aang, the boy in the iceberg. But the Netflix show starts on a far different note. It begins 100 years before the events of the original show, as an unnamed Earthbender soldier desperately tries to fight his way out of the Fire Nation capital with what he believes are Fire Lord Sozin's secret plans to attack the Earth Kingdom.
Get that to the Earth King. They're going to start a war.
Though he was successful in extracting the plans, he's horrified to learn that Sozin wanted his strategy to leak to create a diversion while he launches a surprise attack on the air nomads.
Remember, no survivors.
Speaking of, the cartoon often alluded to the genocide of the air nomads, but never actually showed it. The live-action series shows the entire thing. We watch as Fire Lord Sozin and his soldiers, supercharged by the fiery comet overhead, attack the air nomads in the dead of night. Another new wrinkle is the Comet Festival that brought all the air nomads together in one spot, so Sozin is able to wipe them all out in one fell swoop. In the original, Aang already knows that he's the Avatar and runs away when he learns it's time to leave home to begin training, whereas in the Netflix show, Monkiatso tells Aang he's the Avatar and he goes for a ride on Appa to process the big news. Showing Aang's life before the time jump gives us a look at Aang's relationship with Monkiatso firsthand, and it shows us exactly how the Fire Nation came to power. When Aang breaks out of his cell on the Fire Nation ship, he sneaks into Zuko's quarters and finds a notebook filled with meticulous research on the various past avatars. Aang steals the notebook and uses it throughout his journey to learn more about the avatars and the locations of their shrines. Really, it's lucky for Aang that Zuko was banished and spent years obsessively cataloging literally everything about the Avatar.
It's my destiny.
In the original, that information tends to be communicated to Aang when visiting the spirit world. Later in the Netflix show, when the two characters are hiding from Zhao's soldiers, the notebook plays a secondary role in helping Aang make a personal connection with Zuko.
I can't imagine a better person to have been given this power.
At the end of the first episode, the trio visits the ruins of the Southern Air Temple. Aang is so distraught and overcome with sadness over the loss of the air nomads that he begins to involuntarily channel the destructive power of the Avatar state. When this happens in episode 3 of the cartoon, The Southern Air Temple, Katara helps Aang snap out of it by sharing her own personal story of loss and telling him that she and Sokka are his family now. In the Netflix show, it's Aang's memory of the kind-hearted Gyatso that brings him back to Earth.
You will always be my friend.
It seems this was done because at that point in the story, the characters hadn't really bonded enough for them to be a family, and Katara's emotional plea to Aang is saved for the season 1 finale to return him to normal after becoming Koizilla, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Well, look who's come to their senses. Told you the haggling would pay off.
In the original show, Katara steals a scroll teaching waterbending techniques from pirates. In the live-action version, Katara finds the scroll in her bag alongside a note from Gran Gran. This change gives Katara an extra connection to home and her heritage, as Gran Gran is not only giving her approval for Katara to become a waterbender, but passing on a special piece of their family history.
Do I really have to wear this? It feels a little girly.
In the animated series, Sokka starts off blatantly sexist. It's only after spending time with Suki and training as a Kyoshi warrior himself that he starts to learn proper respect for women.
Wait a second, there's no way a bunch of girls took us down.
In the Netflix show, Sokka's arc focuses instead on his desire to be the warrior his father, Hakoda, expected him to be, and all the pressure that comes with it. His insecurities about whether he can be a great warrior are laid bare when Suki repeatedly outdoes him in everything from target practice to hand-to-hand combat. which leads to a different kind of arc about living up to expectations and finding your own path. The woman who runs Kyoshi Island is Suki's mother, Yukari, who is a new character created for the Netflix show.
And the sooner he and his friends are off our island, the better.
Aang. It's about time.
In the original, the first Avatar Aang meets is Avatar Roku. In the Netflix adaptation, Avatar Kyoshi is Aang's first connection to that part of himself, and the meeting comes much earlier in the story. This meeting adds a new rule to the Avatar state, giving Aang the ability to give himself over to past avatars so they can unleash the power of all four elements when needed. However, Aang can only unlock this ability and commune with the other avatars when he is physically at their shrines. Much is said about the importance of the Avatar's power, but it's not until Avatar Kyoshi's display of that power, wielding all four elements against the Fire Nation, that shows firsthand why the Avatar is such a big deal. Another part of Aang's meeting with Kyoshi is the vision she gives him of the Fire Nation's impending attack on the Northern Water Tribe. Prophecy is not part of the Avatar's power kit in the original, but here it works to set the stakes and give Aang his primary objective for Season 1.
Ugh, why can't I get this stupid move?
The first season of the animated series is titled Book 1, Water, and sees Aang learn his first new element, waterbending, with some tutoring from Katara.
What's so funny?
But in the adaptation, Aang does not learn to waterbend. He is pretty good at splashing though.
And although his airbending skills are great, he has a lot to learn before he's ready to save anyone.
The opening sequence of the animated series features a silly moment where Aang accidentally runs headfirst into a pillar while riding his signature air scooter. This moment is recreated in an actual episode of the Netflix series while Katara is talking him up.
Right. There goes the savior of the world.
Don't tell anyone about the Avatar.
In the original, Azula is merely teased at the end of the first season and does not become a main character until Season 2. In the Netflix show, Azula plays a key role throughout the season by helping out Commander Shao from afar. After Shao sends a letter to Fire Lord Ozai to feed him information about Zuko, Azula sneakily takes up the correspondence with Shao without her father's knowledge.
I'd be in your debt if you kept me informed on the progress of your mission.
Throughout the rest of the season, Azula secretly provides Shao with valuable intel and Fire Nation resources.
She works at the palace. She's willing to help us.
Fire Lord Ozai must die tonight!
A new scene introduces Azula, and it sees her infiltrating a group of rebels planning to assassinate Fire Lord Ozai. When the rebels break into the throne room, Azula reveals her true identity, and it's made clear she has led them to their deaths.
Yes, Father.
She looks on in a sickening amount of euphoria as her father roasts the intruders alive. That is certainly one way to get across her manipulative and sadistic character qualities.
Wait, we're new here, but we have a friend we need to see.
Netflix's two-part Omashu Arc is made up of a few different episodes from the original series. The main story is still about Aang ultimately reconnecting with his old friend Bumi, but interwoven with it are stories about Jet and the Freedom Fighters,
Freedom Fighters!
and Teo and his father, the Mechanist.
Protecting the ones we love is important.
Though these three stories happen in different episodes in the original, they all share the theme of regular people dealing with the Fire Nation's oppression, which is how the adaptation brings them together into one arc.
Keep your firebending in check, or you'll have the Earth Kingdom army to deal with.
Originally, Zuko and Iroh are not part of the Omashu Arc, but here, Zuko battles Aang in the market, and Iroh draws the guard's attention his way, allowing himself to be captured so Zuko can escape.
I can still smell smoke when I go to sleep at night. Never really goes away.
In the original, the Earth Kingdom soldiers do confront Iroh about the Fire Nation's 600-day siege of Earth Kingdom City Ba Sing Se. But in the adaptation, it gets much more intense. As one soldier abuses Iroh, the two argue and share the bitter losses they personally endured in the battle, and the enraged Earthbender almost crushes Iroh with a boulder.
Why are you doing it here?
Acoustics. Best in Omashu.
The iconic Secret Tunnel song from the original starts out with new lyrics, heard when Katara and Sokka first encounter the group of traveling musicians. The Secret Tunnel sequence originally happened in Season 2 in the episode titled The Cave of Two Lovers, and Aang was a part of the group, which very awkwardly led to Aang and Katara having to kiss as a gesture of love to gain the loyalty of the Badger Moles. In the Netflix series, Aang is off fighting Bumi, so in a new twist, Katara and Sokka hold hands in an expression of their familial love to gain the creature's trust.
What a great honor for you and for Lieutenant to die in the service of the Fire Nation.
The live-action show adds in 2 flashbacks to further flesh out Zuko and Iroh's relationship. One sees Zuko comforting Iroh at his son's funeral, while the other shows when Iroh joins Zuko on his quest to find the Avatar. During the funeral scene, we hear an orchestral version of Leaves from the Vine, Little Soldier Boy, which is the song Iroh sang to memorialize his son in the cartoon.
Guys, are you okay?
Other than the crystals slowly encasing my entire body? Doing great.
In the original series, Katara and Sokka are in peril during Aang's fight with King Bumi, trapped in slowly growing green crystals that threaten to snuff them out, but only appear to actually threaten them because it turns out to be rock candy.
Genocide is made of rock candy.
Whereas in the Netflix show, they arrive in the nick of time at the end of the fight to help Aang deal with Bumi.
Commander Zhao is very impressive. Working with no support in a forgotten little corner of the world, and yet he found the Avatar.
Throughout the season, we watch Ozai play Azula and Zuko against each other. In episode 5, we see Azula trying to claim credit for the discovery of the Avatar, but Ozai reminds her it was Zuko who found him. He berates his daughter for her self-flattery and coy whispers and sends her off with tears in her eyes.
You're funny.
And you're a talking fox. Then again, not the craziest thing I've seen today.
The 2-part story that takes place over Spirited Away and Masks combines a few different episodes from the animated series. In the animated episode Winter Solstice Part 1, The Spirit World, only Sokka is trapped in the Spirit World by the Heibai. But in the adaptation, both Sokka and Katara are stuck, this time thanks to Ko. While captured, they both revisit traumatic moments from their past, giving us a deeper insight into their backstories. In the animated episode The Siege of the North Part 2, Aang goes to the Spirit World to learn the location of the moon and ocean spirits from Ko, whereas in the new version, Aang wants Ko to free his friends and learns that the evil spirit wants a special figure that was taken by Avatar Roku.
A totem that represents something that Ko needs and cannot forget.
In the cartoon, Aang saves Sokka and the villagers by calming down the Heibai, which ends up being a giant panda spirit. He calms him down by giving him an acorn, promising new growth of the forest, not unlike how Katara comforts Aang when he's saddened by the burnt-down forest in the Netflix show.
Out of death comes new life. This will be a forest again.
In the animated episode The Blue Spirit, Aang goes on a mission to find medicine for Katara and Sokka after they become ill, and that is when he's captured by the UN archers on order of Commander Zhao. In the new version, Aang needs to find a way to appease Ko before his friends are trapped in the spirit world forever, and it's June who captures Aang by order of Zuko and Iroh, only for Zhao to take Aang away from them.
We'll take the Avatar.
Over my dead body.
The UN archers are still utilized by Zhao, but not until the Blue Spirit tries to rescue Aang. The spirit owl Wan Shi Tong that advises Aang in the live-action version originally appeared in the Season 2 animated episode, The Library. Aang's reunion with Monk Gyatso in the spirit world is a new addition to the story for the Netflix version. Monk Gyatso is given more prominence in the Netflix version. He acts as a link to Aang's prior life and as the main figure around which he learns to process grief. So this new appearance is added as a bookend to Aang's attempt to find closure.
You're gonna sacrifice them.
Sacrifice is a part of war.
In the cartoon, we do not witness the full story behind Zuko's banishment, but the Netflix version shows everything. We see how it was Zuko's questioning of his father's military plan to sacrifice the 41st Division that led to Ozai demanding he settle the matter with an Agni Kai ceremonial duel. And we actually get to see the Agni Kai. Originally in the cartoon, Zuko refused to fight at all, but in the live-action version, he eventually battles his father only to ultimately show mercy in the final moments, which only makes his dad even more angry, leading to the horrifying moment where he scars his son's face with firebending. It's also of note that we see Ozai's immensely powerful firebending skills early in the story, rather than waiting for the series finale. After the fight, we're shown Ozai banishing Zuko. The scenes adds in new conditions for the prince's banishment, removing Zuko's place as heir to the throne and forcing him to take the 41st Division with him. In the present, Iroh reveals to new character Lieutenant G that Zuko saved his life along with the entire 41st Division, which gives them a newfound respect for their prince.
almost perfect.
The animated series episode The Avatar State shows Azula aboard her ship practicing lightning bending and receiving criticism from her trainers for not being completely perfect. This Season 2 scene is similar to how, in the Netflix version, Ousley supervises her training as she beats up an Earth Kingdom prisoner. But even though she won, Azula is unfairly criticized for not winning as fast as she could have.
The Fire Lord deems your performance below average.
During her next training session, she refuses to keep playing Daddy's game and shows off her powerful new lightning generation skill, which is finally enough to impress Ousley and give her the opportunity to prove herself in the field.
I'm here to help.
Now's not the time, Katara.
Now is exactly the time.
I thought I made myself clear. Women are not allowed in combat.
I thought I showed you how stupid that is.
Just like in the original series, Waterbending Master Pakku of the Northern Water Tribe stubbornly insists that women are not allowed to fight, owing to the tribe's sexist traditions. In the Netflix version, when Katara stands up to Pakku and joins the final battle, there's a new, empowering moment where the other female waterbenders stand up with her, which finally convinces Pakku to change his mind. One key detail not mentioned in the live-action version is how Pakku was at one time arranged to marry Katara's grandmother, Kana, aka Gran. But Pakku's strict adherence to his misogynistic ideals drove her away, and she left to live with the Southern Water Tribe instead.
It's the center of all spiritual energy in our land.
In the original series, Princess Yue brings Team Avatar to the Spirit Oasis so Aang can better commune with the spirit world. Whereas in the new version, Momo is injured in the battle, and Yue has Sokka bring him to the Spirit Oasis because its waters have healing properties.
What happened? Where's Zuko?
He took Aang. He took him right out from under me.
Much of the staging of the season finale is different between the cartoon and the live-action version, although the main beats are largely the same. In the cartoon, Zuko kidnaps Aang's body while he's in the spirit world dealing with Ko, and he must be saved by Katara and Sokka. Meanwhile, the Netflix version skips the spirit world part, having already covered that material earlier in the season. Thanks to this change, Aang is able to join Sokka and Yue in the Spirit Oasis thanks to Katara holding off Zuko. In the Netflix version, their battle is interrupted by an explosion, whereas the cartoon sees Zuko defeat Katara and kidnap Aang, only for Katara to later catch up and take out Zuko in seconds.
Ozai was just using you as motivation for your sister.
In the animated series, a defeated Shao is grabbed by the giant koi-fish ocean elemental. Zuko does try to save him, but Shao is unable to swallow his pride and instead resigns himself to his fate as the spirit drowns him. In the Netflix version, Shao is beaten by Zuko and uses his last words to deliver an emotional gut punch that was not in the original. He reveals to Zuko that his father never intended for Zuko to ever return from his banishment, and that he was only using Zuko as a tool to help hone his true chosen heir, Azula. Shao reveals that it was Azula who was helping him all along, which explains how he knew Zuko was the Blue Spirit thanks to his swords, and why he was sent the elite Yuan archers. Instead of meeting his end at the watery hands of Koizilla, Shao tries to sucker punch Zuko, but is stopped for good by a deadly fire blast from Iroh. It is of note that while Zhao played a similar role throughout the season in the original as a foil to Zuko, in the live-action version, he's much more sneaky, snaky, duplicitous, and ambitious.
And the world needs you. I need you.
In the cartoon, the ocean spirit simply releases control of Aang when the moon spirit is restored. But in the Netflix version, it takes Katara's emotional plea to free him from its possession. Whereas the father-like monkey Yatso was Aang's anchor in the first episode of the Netflix series, now it's Aang's new friends that help bring him back. This shows how even though Aang did suffer an incredible loss, he's now found a new family in Team Avatar. And finally, the season ends with Azula taking Omashu. The city does fall to the Fire Nation in the original, but it does not happen until the second season, and it was not Azula's conquest. Moving that moment up and giving it to Azula better sets her up as the next villain for Team Avatar to face.
So, what's next?
Well, those are all the differences I found in Netflix's adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Did you spot anything? Let me know in the comments. And for more water, earth, fire, and boomerang, keep it right here on IGN.